Mother's Day, a day of mixed emotions at the best of times. How has COVID affected your relationship with your mother? Maybe your mother died many years ago. Maybe just this last year. Maybe you never knew her. Or maybe she is your bubble and there for you no matter what. Maybe your mum is your be-all and end-all. Or maybe your mum is difficult. Maybe your mum doesn't get you, or you don't get her. Maybe she lives on the other side of the world, or maybe she is just around the corner, yet you are far from each other's hearts. Or maybe your mum has homeschooled you for most of the last year. Or maybe it wasn't your mum. Maybe someone else plays the role of mother in your life. Maybe your sadness is not with your mum, but with your children, or the children you never had, the children you loved and lost. Or maybe you will spend today simply thankful for the special people God has put in your lives. Whatever it may be for you, may you find a picture or a prayer to help you today. For this next prayer, As the words appear on the screen, perhaps you can fill in the gaps.
Jesus had a mother. It might sound painfully obvious, but we can't take anything for granted with Jesus, the Son of God. But he did. He had an ordinary human Jewish mother with the very common name of Mary. Many women in that day were also called Mary. He had what seemed like an ordinary childhood. At the age of 12, he even had that experience of teenage angst where he thought it was obvious where he would be, and his mum and Joseph, his dad, were very confused about where he was. He said, "Didn't you know where I'd be? I'd be in my father's house, the temple." And they were angry. It seems that even Mary and Joseph struggled to let go of their teenage son, to realise that he was growing in independence, that he had a mind of his own. All perfectly natural. But later on in the story, something very interesting. Jesus is an adult and his ministry is really getting going, and he's healing people and he's calling people to be his disciples and follow him, and there are crowds wherever he goes. And when Jesus' mother and brothers hear what Jesus is doing, they say he's out of his mind, he's insane, and they set about going to find him and take him home. And then we read this in Mark chapter 3. Then Jesus' mother and his brothers came and stood outside and sent a message to him, asking that he come out and speak with them. When the crowd sitting around Jesus heard this, they spoke up and said to him, "Jesus, your mother and brothers are outside looking for you." He answered them, "Who is my true mother and my true brothers?" Then looking in the eyes of those who were sitting in a circle around him, he said, "Here are my true family members. For whoever does the will of God is my brother, my sister, and my mother." How hurtful it must have been for Jesus to cast his mother and brothers aside like this. But we understand that Jesus could not let people stand in the way of his ministry, not even his mother and brothers. In this lockdown, some people have felt incredibly guilty that they're not around the corner from their aging parents. They're not there to look after them. And if that's you, I wonder what this passage might say to you. Later on in the story, when Jesus is dying on the cross, we see again another interesting exchange between him and his mother. Mary, Jesus' mother, was standing next to his cross, along with Mary's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. So when Jesus looked down and saw the disciple he loved standing with her, he said, "Mother, look, John will be a son to you." Then he said, "John, look, she will be a mother to you." From that day on, John accepted Mary into his home as one of his own family. Clearly, Jesus cared about the welfare of his mother. It's interesting that he doesn't ask one of his own brothers to take care of his mother. Presumably his father Joseph has died, Mary is a widow, and it's John who's chosen to look after her. It seems that Jesus has a very broad understanding of family. It's not just the bloodline. He finds the right person to look after Mary, and Mary can also look after John as her own son. It's a very kind and compassionate response, so we can see that he did care very much for his own family. But what we see is that Jesus has a very broad understanding of what family is. Later on, after Jesus has died, risen, ascended, and gone to heaven as king, Paul and Peter and others are trying to work out what this all meant and teach the early church. And Paul says in many places that we are God's children, that we are grafted into God's family, that God is our Father, Jesus is our brother, and we are heirs and co-heirs with Jesus, meaning that we have the same access to the Father and that we have access to all the spiritual riches of heaven. Jesus is crowned as king, so to enter this family means to enter the royal family. Peter talks about us as a royal priesthood, meaning that as part of the royal family we are called to serve people, to serve in the kingdom, as priests alongside Jesus, doing the work of loving and bringing in the kingdom of God just like Jesus did. We could spend hours talking about that, talking about what these spiritual riches are, what it means to belong to God's family. But there's just one point that I want to make today, which is that we are never alone, that there doesn't need to be anyone without a family. There is one great big worldwide family that God invites us into, where he is the Father and Jesus is the King and the brother. And we are heirs and co-heirs, having equal access to this Father with Jesus. None of us needs to be alone. None of us needs to be without a family. Everyone can belong.
giving love in a family dog. We are family. Hey, I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Sing it to me. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Living life is fun, and we've just begun to get our share of this world's delight. Our hopes we had for the future and our goals in sight. We know we don't get depressed. Here's what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do. You won't go wrong. Oh no, this is our family jewel. We are family. Sing it to me. I got all my sisters with me. Sing it to me. We are family. I can hear you, y'all. Tell everybody to sing. We have faith in you and the things you do.
What is your experience of family like? Is it a safe place? Is it a place where you can trust that you're going to be loved and looked after? I know that no matter how well I do as a dad, as a parent, I will make mistakes, and I will at times let my children down, as a husband let my wife down. And this week, we've heard about Meghan Markle and Harry and how they feel that their trust has been let down by our own royal family, and how the royal family must be feeling now. They must be feeling let down by some of the things that have been said. And figures in authority, like the police, our trust in them has been rattled this week. So where can we go for that love and that security? Well, Jesus shows us the extent of his love when he says during the Last Supper that somebody there will betray him. And he knows who that is. And yet, even though each one of those disciples has been walking around with getting muck and manure over their feet, he washes each one of those disciples' feet, knowing that one will betray and the rest will abandon him on the night that he's arrested. Jesus' love for us is absolutely trustworthy, no matter what we do, and we can cling on to that.
I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whispers of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers unexplainable. I can hardly think as you call me, deeper still as you call me, deeper still as you call me, deeper still into love.
During this prayer activity, take this opportunity to thank God for the person or people who you can trust the most. Maybe it's your mum or someone like your mum. We are making these jam jars as a prayer of thankfulness for people who we can trust in our own lives. A prayer of thankfulness for them and a prayer of thankfulness to God that He is absolutely trustworthy, unconditionally loving, and always there for us. If you like these jam jars with flowers in, we've put some of these outside our house for you to come and collect for the person you want to bless or remember on this very different Mother's Day.